The galactic throne room of the Breth Dominion had never known silence like this. 7 princes of the most feared empire in the known galaxy sat motionless around the obsidian war table, their iridescent scales pale with something that no diplomat, no general, no conquered species had ever managed to put on a Breth royal's face before. Fear. Prince Zether, eldest of the 7 and commander of the 3rd Dominion fleet, finally broke the silence. His clawed fingers trembled as he pressed them flat against the table. "We need to reconsider the invasion," he said. The youngest prince, Soval, spun to face him. "You cannot be serious. We are the Breth. We have consumed 49 civilizations. We turned the Keth into a client species in 11 days. The Maruvians, who had faster-than-light warheads, surrendered within a single planetary rotation." "I know what we are," Zether said quietly. "I also know what I saw." The room fell silent again. On the holographic table between them, the battle record replayed for the 9th time. A mountainous jungle world. The humans called it Forward Station Kepler, burning in 3 sectors. Breth assault cruisers, 12 of them, drifting as debris in low orbit. Ground forces, 4,000 Breth warriors, elite shock troops in full carapace armor, deployed to neutralize what the intelligence reports had described as a lightly defended forward operating base. What the intelligence reports had not mentioned was the 2 humans stationed there. Leo had been fixing a water reclamation unit when the orbital alarm screamed. He was not a tall man by human standards, broad, compact, with hands that could crack pressure seals bare-fisted from years of field engineering. His hair was the color of old rust, and he had a scar along his jaw from a mining accident on Titan that he'd never bothered to have cosmetically removed because, as he put it, it's a good reminder to check the pressure gauges. Ava was on the ridge above the station, running a routine sensor sweep, when she spotted the drop pods. She counted them the way a person might count raindrops, calmly, practically, already calculating. "Leo," she said over the comm, her voice carrying the same flat tone she used when requesting supply drops. "We've got company. Looks like a full Breth ground assault. I'm counting approximately 4,000 units." A pause. "Want me to start the evac sequence?" he asked. Ava considered this for exactly 2 seconds. "No," she said. "We'd never make the extraction window. We hold the station." Another pause. "All right," said Leo. "I'll put the kettle on." The Breth war commanders reviewing the footage later would spend considerable time on this exchange. They would bring in xenolinguists, behavioral analysts, psychological warfare specialists. All of them would reach the same baffling conclusion. The humans were not speaking in code. They genuinely discussed a hot beverage before engaging 4,000 soldiers. The Breth did not have a concept for this. What followed was 11 hours of combat that the Dominion's senior military historians would eventually classify under a new category they created specifically for the occasion: incomprehensible engagement. Ava moved through the jungle like weather. She didn't fight fair. She didn't fight at all in the way the Breth understood fighting. Breth warriors charged. They formed lines. They used mass, coordinated force. They operated in units with clear chain-of-command structures because that was how warfare worked. Ava didn't seem to know this. She was in 6 places. She was never where the sensors said she was. She used the terrain the way a Breth warrior would use a weapon. The ridge became a kill corridor. The river became a trap. The fog that rolled in from the eastern lowlands at hour 3 became, somehow, her ally. Strike teams sent to flank her found themselves flanking each other. Reinforcement columns found paths that had, inexplicably, become impassable. One entire company of Breth shock troops spent 4 hours marching in a formation that, they would only realize afterward, had been very carefully herded in a circle. Leo, meanwhile, had turned the station into something that military engineers later described as architecturally deranged. He had no formal combat training beyond basic infantry certification. What he had was 12 years of field engineering experience, a complete understanding of every structural and mechanical system in the base, and an absolutely ungovernable willingness to repurpose things. The water reclamation unit became a pressure weapon. The fuel depot became a controlled demolition sequence triggered by tripwire made from comm cable. He rerouted the station's heating conduits to make thermal imaging useless in a 300-meter radius. He built a listening post from a broken antenna dish and 2 food processors. At one point, he used the station's agricultural irrigation grid to flood a ravine at precisely the moment 40 Vreth warriors were crossing it. When the Vreth commanders sent in their assault drones, Leo caught 3 of them, reprogrammed them in under 20 minutes, and sent them back. At hour 7, Ava called in. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "Good," said Leo. "Ran out of coffee, though? That's the real tragedy." "I hear you," she said. "I'm down to my last magazine on the Eastern Rifle. Switching to the sidearm and the terrain." "Copy that. I've got maybe 2 more tricks left on the Western approach. Make them count." "Always do." By hour 11, the Vreth ground commander, a decorated veteran named Vorg who had personally overseen the subjugation of 3 species, sent an emergency signal to the orbital fleet, requesting immediate extraction. "Assault compromised. Recommend full tactical withdrawal." The fleet admiral, Sethek, responded with what could only be translated as confused outrage. He demanded a status report. Vorg sent him the casualty numbers. Sethek did not respond for 6 minutes. Then, "How many humans are in the base?" Vorg checked the intelligence report again. "Check the sensor logs. Check the records of the original orbital scan." 2, he sent back. Another long silence. 2. "Yes. You are telling me," Sethek sent, very slowly, "that 2 humans have held a forward station against 4,000 of our warriors for 11 hours. "Correct," said Vorg. "Sir, I need you to understand. They're not retreating. They're not trying to escape. I don't think they're defending. I think they're annoyed that we interrupted their workday." Extraction came for Ava and Leo on hour 14, when a human rapid response frigate punched through the Vreth orbital blockade, a blockade that had been significantly thinned by 11 hours of 2 people making the Dominion's ground forces look like a navigational hazard. The extraction pilot, a young woman named Torres, found Ava sitting on the station's outer wall eating a protein bar and watching the jungle. Leo was inside, apparently having located a second bag of coffee. "Are you both okay?" Torres asked, looking at the battlefield around them with an expression that could best be described as existential. "Bit tired," said Ava. "Shoulders sore," said Leo, appearing in the doorway with a mug. "Left a few things running that'll make their morning difficult. We should go." Torres looked at the debris fields, the scorched earth, the elaborate series of traps and barriers and redirected infrastructure that had turned a small forward station into an 11-hour nightmare for 4,000 soldiers. "This was just the 2 of you?" she asked. Leo and Ava exchanged a glance. "Scout posting's usually pretty quiet," Ava said. "First time we've had to do much," Leo agreed. Back in the Vreth throne room, Prince Zether spread his hands across the holographic record, pausing it on the moment Ava had, calmly, with no apparent urgency, redirected an entire Vreth assault column using nothing but terrain knowledge and patience. "This was a scout unit," he said. 2 people. Standard forward operating assignment. Not special forces. Not elite. Scout unit." The other princes said nothing. "If this is what their scouts can do," Zether continued, "I want to need to know, what they send when they consider something a real threat." The silence in the throne room was different now. Heavier. Prince Soval, who had spoken so confidently of 49 conquered civilizations, slowly lowered his gaze to the table. Outside the great windows of the Dominion's throne world, the stars looked the same as they always had. But somehow, for the first time in the Vreth Empire's long and blood-soaked history, the dark between them felt less like an empire's domain and more like a warning. Somewhere across the galaxy, on a resupply frigate heading back to the inner colonies, Leo finally got his coffee. Ava was already asleep in the bunk above him, mission report filed, alarm set for 0600. Neither of them had thought to mention the engagement as anything particularly notable. It had been, all things considered, a quiet posting.